We go with your FCS part of the Phil Steele Plus tour. As always, thanks to Chris, who does all this FCS stuff. And I get to learn a little bit about the FCS as I go through the teams and read what he has written down here. And it's pretty interesting. Some of these teams I'm actually starting to follow. Chris does want you to let you know that these games are all available at FanDuel. So if you go to FanDuel, you can get the lines on the FCS games right now. Let's get his first game, and it's the one you've been talking about, the water cooler, all week long, all right? Southeast Missouri against Eastern Illinois. Huge matchup. Well, SEMO comes into this 4-1 and ranked number 13 in the FCS coaches poll. The Redhawks have a win over the Big South OVC preseason favorite, UT Martin, as you see here. And 2 weeks ago, we used SEMO plus 8.5 at Southern Illinois, and SEMO won outright 38-21. You guys remember that? Part of Chris's 7-1 record with these FCS games so far. Their only loss this season was at New Mexico State, 23-16. But look at this. They actually had a 352 to 270-yard edge and led the majority of that game. Now, last week, SEMO only beat Northwestern State 19-0, but had a 420 to 120-yard edge, settling for 4 short field goals. Paxton DeLaurent has a 13-3 ratio, and Eastern Illinois is number 126 in our pass efficiency rankings. And let me show you something new here. If you go to the FCS, you can get the team pages right there, which, of course, clicks you on each team. We'll click on the FCS here. We're already there. Let's go back to the menu for a second. All right, FCS information. We have the pass efficiency defense updated. Now, this not only takes into account the stats, but also the strength of the opponent. As you see here, NC Central hasn't played any good quarterbacks. Montana State has played good quarterbacks. That's factored into it. So if we go all the way down the line here, Eastern Illinois comes in at number 126, and we see that they've got a pretty good quarterback to exploit that. This is all available for you on the Phil Steele Plus. Also, FCS information-wise are the average game grades. And I want to show you something here. The average game grades show that if you take a look at Southeast Missouri State, they actually come in number 14 in our rankings. The average game grade is no starting point. You guys know this from the FBS and from the NFL, but I thought I'd explain to you in the FCS as well. No starting point. It only takes a look at the total yards and total points in each game, both offense and defense, and who your opponent is. So as you can see here, they beat UT Martin but lost to New Mexico State, yet they rated a higher game grade for the New Mexico State team because they outgained an FBS foe on the road, and that's why that is one of their better game grades of the year. Anyway, they rate us 84.0, which is number 14. Eastern Illinois, as you see over here, is number 17. This gives you a look at them all. Eastern Illinois comes in number 72 in our average game grades. So the average game grades call Missouri State 81.5. That's 14 or 15.5 better, and the game is on the road, so it'd be about a 13.5 edge, and they're only laying 8.5. But those are available for each team, or all the FCS. You can get the average game grades. Something else I want to point out here, we've got the college logs available. If you want to see what the lines were on all the FCS games, that's available. Get that Phil Steele Plus subscription. It's $89 or $99 right now. I gave you a code word on the menu which gets it down to $89. But if you subscribe to my Red Hot Inside the Press Box, which is just a little over $100 right now on the FBS store, you get the Phil Steele Plus for free, and you have access to all this information all year long. Make sure you get it. All right, let's get back to what we were talking about with this game and see what else Chris has got written down here for us. Eastern Illinois last year was 8-3. Let's go take a look at that. Were they 8-3? And I love the green-red. It lets you see at a glance. Yep, 8-3. You see that right at a glance. I also see that they couldn't run the ball last year. Hey, look at this. They still can't run the ball. They have 16 starters back, but they made my going down box in my FCS stock market indicator, and we're plus 16 in turnovers. You guys are familiar with plus 16 in turnovers means. That means turnovers equals turnaround. They're headed for a down year this year. They started just 1-4, and right now they're minus 167 yards per game. 2 of their losses were to Big Ten teams, but they also lost Illinois State 31-7. and were outgained in that game 518 to 192. Then last week lost to Lindenwood, who was a consensus pick to finish last in the Big South OVC. These are two teams going in the opposite directions, and the AGG says SEMO by 16. My line, or Chris's line, was 20, so he's going back to SEMO, or Southeast Missouri, as his top play this week, and calling SEMO to win the game 38 to 17. All right, let's get to the next matchup, and we take Villanova on the left. Chris, why are you picking on Villanova so much? Oh, because you keep winning going against them each week. Okay, that might be a reason why. But Villanova is a good team. They're just maybe a little overrated in Vegas, and Chris has been taking advantage of it. They are playing Stony Brook, and Villanova is on the road. So let's go ahead and put Stony Brook on the right and put Villanova on the left. We got Villanova on the left there. I found Stony Brook. What's their nickname? Oh, they're the Seawolves. I like to learn about these FCS teams as I go through here. And look, you can go back, Stony Brook, you can go all the way back here, get every single score, every game, color-coded green and red, all the way back to 2011. So you learn about Stony Brook in that respect. And look at this. We've had individual player stats updated each and every year. You want to know how players did in individual games last year, this year. How's their quarterback doing this year? You could see each game here. Who's their top rusher in each game? It's all available. This Dempster dude, he's got, look at this, 160, 179, 158. I'm going to keep my eyes on Roland Dempster here. And I love it. All this FCS information right there for you. So let's take a look what Chris has written here. Stony Brook has traditionally been at the bottom of the CAA, but new head coach Bill Kosh, and I think that's noted up here. Yep, Bill Kosh, first year. I like that. Has 17 starters back and has turned things around quicker than anyone could have foreseen. The Seawolves are 4-1. Now, you see last year, look, they were a pretty bad team. Look at this, 4-1 this year. And they're outside the FCS coaches poll ratings. They pulled upsets at Fordham, and they upset Campbell. I like that. And last week they beat Morgan State 22-3 with a 428 to 259-yard edge. The biggest differences so far have been in their run game and defense. Roland Dempster, there we go, 408 yards, 4.4. Already has, that was last year. Look at this. Dempster last year was 408, 4.4. He's already got 585 when season's only 4 games in. And their defense last year was last in the CAA. Well, you want to know why they went winless? 471 yards per game. But this year, they are only allowing 19 points per game and 357 yards per game. Even got some green in here as opposed to all that red. We went against Villanova last week on the FCS Tour and won comfortably on Long Island plus 25. Now, Villanova never led by more than 17 points last week and ended up winning 24-10. Stony Brook has covered all 4 games and is plus 108 yards per game versus FCS foes, while Villanova is plus 76 yards per game versus FCS foes. Stony Brook is plus 14.5, but is getting 14.5 points here, but the AGG only has Villanova by 1. Look at this, 74.3 to 77, give him a 2-point home edge. That says Villanova by 1 point. Now, my computer has Villanova by 8. And Chris says, take the Seawolves to keep this one closer than expected. Take Stony Brook, plus 13.5 over Villanova. Well, let's move on to your third game, and we're going to go with Houston Christian. Can anybody out there tell me Houston Christian's nickname? We're going to learn it in a minute. It's the Huskies. And they are taking on McNeese State. We're going to put McNeese State on the left because they are the visitor, and Houston Christian on the right. All right, let's see how these two teams line up. Chris says that we've used McNeese State each of the last 2 weeks of the FCS Tour. We know that. Clifton McDowell. Remember Clifton McDowell? He was a FCS championship quarterback last year, playing in the championship game, and he came over here for his senior year, and he's hitting 61% with a 6-2 ratio as the team's leading rusher. That makes them a completely different team. He led the Grizzlies in the national title game last year. Well, McNeese was plus 14.5 last week against the Big Sky's Weber State, and they won outright for us, 28-26. McNeese is now 4-1, and their losses are their loss to Texas A&M, or 4-2, I should say, and their losses are against Texas A&M and Tarleton. And Tarleton, they outgained 445 to 339, but were minus 4 in turnovers and missed a field goal at the end, which would have sent it to overtime. Houston Christian is 2-3. Their wins were over NAIA, Indiana State, and Louisiana Christian. who is projected next to last in the Missouri Valley and was 1-10 last year. The Huskies lost to their two FCS teams and also lost to that same Tarleton State team 35-18, but they were outgained 447 to 289. Chris thinks that McNeese State is still being undervalued. The AGG does only have McNeese State by 10, but the comparative scores against Tarleton have Chris saying McNeese by 2 touchdowns or better. So he's going back to that cowboy well once again and taking McNeese, and they are minus 9.5 at Houston Christian. All right, your final game is fourth one, 7-1 coming in. Here's his fourth game. It is Lafayette at Fordham. I know it's the Fordham Rams. I'm familiar with that. Put them on the right. And Lafayette, we're going to put them on the left, and they are the Leopards. All right, let's see how these two teams match up. Now, Chris says these two were picked to finish number 1 and number 3 in the Patriot League. By the way, do you guys have a magazine, FCS magazine? Just go to the store here, and when you go to the store, right here, the FCS magazine, $25, 2 full pages on every single team in the FCS. It's the exact same layout, the exact same amount of information we give you in the FBS, but you get it on the FCS. You could become an instant expert. Get it right now for just $25. Next week, I'll give you a special code where you can get a discount on that, but for this week, just go get it for $25. Actually, let me think of a code. Let's go. Hey, let's go. Chris, CHRIS FCS is your code. Get an FCS magazine for $20 this week. Click here, type in Chris FCS, and get the $25 magazine for just $20. You could give it to Chris, huh? He's been giving you 7-1 ATS. Let's go ahead and support the guy. All right, let's continue on here. Chris says that Lafayette is 2-2 and does have an impressive road win over Monmouth. There you go, 40-35. The Leopards are coming off a surprising loss to Columbia, 31-20 last week, but their other loss was at Buffalo, which is to be expected. Now, Fordham is one of the FCS's top offenses the last few years. Look at all this green. Look at all this green. Those are some amazing numbers, huh? But C.J. Montez, their quarterback, was injured week 3. Let's go take a look at that. Individual player stats. C.J. Montez started out here and here, got injured week 3. So now it's Jack Capaldi. Okay, that's interesting because C.J. Montez was their quarterback last year. Look at this, 64% with a 26-1 ratio. You got to love that. Capaldi's hitting 48% with a 3-3 ratio. So they're a different team. And look at the red here on offense as opposed to all the green that they had on offense the last 2 years. Good call there, Chris. See how the green and red help you out there? Now, the Rams are off to a miserable 0-5 start, both straight up in ATS. Fordham has lost 4 games by 24 points or more, including at Central Connecticut State. When they had Montez, they lost 33-3. Just last week, they lost at Monmouth, 63-21. Look at this. Monmouth, 63-21. Oh, they beat Monmouth, 40-35. All right, that's interesting. They allowed 407 yards rushing that game. Ooh, in fact, look at the red that they've got coming in that column. And now they face Lafayette's Jamar Curtis. Here's Lafayette's Jamar Curtis, who was an All-American last year. Look at Curtis last year, 1,455 yards, 6.2. He's gotten off to a slow start this year. Only 289, 4.0. Let's see his individual games. 12, 87, 88, 102. Looks to me like he's gaining a little bit of steam. I would project this number to be about 175 this week going against this type of rush defense. I don't know if they have FCS fantasy football. Might be a play there. Fordham is a play against team, and Chris thinks that this week Curtis has a big game. And let's take a look at last year. How did Curtis do against Fordham last year? We can look that up right here on philsteele.com. Curtis, Fordham, here it is. Oh, 31 carries, 204 yards. Did I say put him on your fantasy football team this week? Curtis had a big game. AGG says Lafayette by 14, but Chris says they're going to be angry off a loss and take it out on Fordham. It's Lafayette minus 14.5 over Fordham. So once again, make sure you pick up that FCS magazine. I hope you enjoy these FCS plays. And by all means, if you haven't checked out the regular tour, the FBS tour, check that out. I got 14 free plays up there for you. And thank you for taking the Phil Steele Plus FCS tour for me with this week. Let's hope Chris improves on that 7-1 record.